Welcome to the video where we count down the 10 smallest incorporated towns in the state of Florida, and that's the key, incorporated. All these towns have some sort of form of government and mayor, city council, something like that, and they're all incorporated towns. And so yeah, it should be a fun trip through the state of Florida, and we're heading down a long 2-lane road to our first town of Horseshoe Beach. What better place to start our tour than on the beach? And this is Horseshoe Beach. Fascinating place to visit. 165 people, I think I saw, and it has been, at least about twice as much if you look at the census from the past few decades. Originally, it was settled in the 1800s, not exactly sure when. There's not a ton of information about Horseshoe Beach online to find, but I did find it was settled sometime in the 1800s, but was never really founded as a town until the 30s, and then it wasn't incorporated until the 1960s. So it's kind of had a brief, existence as an incorporated town, but you can see why people would want to come here and start a town. It's very beautiful. It's very remote, about 20 miles from any main roads over here on the Gulf. And driving around, it's certainly different than a lot of small towns in other states that I have gone to. Obviously, you see all the houses on stilts. I'm assuming that hurricanes have been a problem here at some point. I talked to a guy near the town, kind of where the town hall is, and he said that's not the same town hall that he had remembered the last time he was here, so I'm assuming it had been wiped out. And you can see construction in a lot of different places around the town. Cloud Lake, Florida is basically, I guess you'd call it a suburb of West Palm Beach, and we are right next to the Palm Beach airport, so I'm in a no-fly zone with the drone, so I'll have to show you kind of above from Google Earth to show you what this small community looks like. It was started in the late 1940s by a couple of twin brothers. One was the superintendent of public works at West Palm Beach, and they started this town, I'm assuming, to kind of, keep from being annexed into the larger towns around it. And it's had about the same population ever since it was started, about 130. Went up a little bit, went down a little bit, and it's stayed the same. There's not much to it. There is a town hall building, so they have a little bit of official business. And this tree behind me is right here by the town hall. It's a beautiful old tree. And other than that, there's a couple of lakes, and you can kind of drive near them. I don't know if you can take a boat out any of the lakes or anything like that, but there's a couple of lakes. One has kind of a somebody, I'm not sure, it's probably man-made, has their house kind of in the middle of one of the lakes. It was named after a Seminole Indian chief that was translated into Chief Cloud, and so yeah, it's a nice, really pretty area, obviously, right here near Palm Beach. And don't know a ton about if there's been a lot of historical things have happened here, but it's opened up about 130 people, and it's stayed that way for about 70 to 80 years. We've made our way to Otter Creek, and this one's definitely very interesting. Originally in 1539, the explorer Hernando de Soto came through here, and this was originally known as Otter Creek Ford. So it built up into the second largest community in the county. And there was a lumber mill here, there was a school, there was a railroad that went through here. And I think I'm standing in kind of what was the downtown area. And there's a nice little circle, some streets, there's a church, and some old buildings. And so the lumber mill went out of business, and the town started to get smaller. It incorporated later on, and had a larger population than it does now, but it's still obviously pretty small to be on this list. It's very interesting driving around. There's these little pockets called historical districts, and they're not historical districts like you might think of, but I'm assuming they were the locations of the important places in town. You can see some old houses just kind of pop up out of nowhere, kind of in the trees. And then every once in a while you'll see some old buildings like the ones in this little square here. So there are a couple of businesses, or at least there's at least one business on the corner, and there's the post office kind of on the main road. So there's the main road, kind of two main roads, and then this is kind of back off the main road. So if you want to explore Otter Creek, you're going to have to get just off the main road, and you'll find quite a bit back here. Bascom was named after a Henry Bascom, who was a preacher and traveled a variety of places, but was a preacher and ended up being a congressional chaplain. And then he was the president of multiple colleges later on. And so that's how the town got its name. It's an interesting town. There's not a ton of information that I could find about it. I think the post office opened in the late 1800s. And Faye Dunaway is, this is where she was from. Basically, she was from a nearby community with a funny name called Two Egg, and but they didn't have a post office there, and so this is where the mail went for Faye Dunaway, and this is where, technically, I guess you could say she was from Bascom. If you look around the town, there's some interesting, older buildings. There's a little downtown area. There's a store, convenience store that looks like it is open. There's a post office. There's some crumbling buildings, but you know, there's also some nice houses. 87 people are living here. There's been, you know, maybe double that. So it looks like it's always been a fairly small town. This sign here behind me gave a little information about the history of the town, saying it was a river town. It was kind of a day's horse ride away from the Chattahoochee River. And so I guess it had some convenience in its location, but never got very big. Right behind me over there where those trees are, that's the little island of Indian Creek, and it's one of the more interesting small towns on this list. And it's the, you know, a town that we can't visit because it's a private area. It's one of the most exclusive places in the entire world. It's all very wealthy people. It's been nicknamed Billionaire Bunker, but it's also one of the 10 smallest towns in Florida, and so that's why we're here today. So let's take our drone up and we'll get a little shot of Indian Creek, and I'll tell you a little more about the town.
The island of Indian Creek was said to have been created around 1900 due to the excavation of drainage for Biscayne Bay, and was uninhabited and underdeveloped as a mangrove forest until 1928. That's when the country club and the housing lots were established, and a group of Midwestern businessmen bought the island as a real estate venture. It was unincorporated until 1939, at which point there were 17 residents and the country club had 180 members. And for many years, the island was an area for vacation rentals for the Miami kind of elite population, until recent years when many of the elite residents began living there full time. The population peaked at 103 in 1980 and has gone up and down, as you can see, and is at 84 today. People who have lived here or currently live here: Tom Brady, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Julio Iglesias, the singer, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, and former Miami Dolphins head coach Don Shula.
Belleair Shore is another one of these communities that's the highly exclusive, very wealthy stretch of land, and we're on Belleair Beach, and that's the Gulf of Mexico right out there. And Belleair Shore was incorporated in the 1950s. Wasn't a lot of history to be found online, but I'm guessing it's similar to, you know, incorporate their own type of land, be able to do basically what they want to do. It's 1 mile of land that's right along the Gulf of Mexico, and it's just basically this stretch of beach, and there's a road called Gulf Boulevard on the other side of these houses, and it's just that little stretch right there, and it's 1 mile long. And it was incorporated, like I said, in the 1950s. The population has been kind of up and down, but it's been somewhere between, you know, 60 to 120, and is, you know, where it is today in 2020. And most of the houses are really, really nice. Some of them are incredibly spectacular, like, you know, ones like this behind me. And it's pretty interesting because I'm just walking here along the beach, and these houses that are I think I read about $5 million average are just right here. Now, obviously, they're all private property, so it's very, it's not like you can walk up and check out the houses. But yeah, so just another kind of strange town to be on this list. I heard that Ryan Howard, he was a really good baseball player years ago, bought one of these houses or had one of them built. And I'm not sure if it's Belleair Shore, but like Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, lives or has lived in Belleair, in this area along Belleair Beach. So that's the type of people that are living in some of these houses. And yeah, so really, really beautiful, obviously, and definitely way out of my price range. And we're down to number 4, and the towns are getting strange. Lazy Lake, not that there haven't been strange ones already, but Lazy Lake, Florida is very unique. We're basically in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Technically, we're surrounded by the city of Wilton Manors, and Lazy Lake is a tiny little square block that is an incorporated town within the city of Wilton Manors, which is right on the edge of the northern side of Fort Lauderdale. And the reason that it became what it is because there were people that lived here that the town of Wilton Manors was going to incorporate, and this basically block of people didn't want to. And so they decided at that time to make their own town and name it Lazy Lake. And there was a quarry, a rock quarry here, and which eventually became where the actual lake is. There is a lake in there. And so they kind of built a little community around that with a lot of trees, kind of a private little community. Not private, but semi-private. You're fenced off from the rest of the city around you. And so it became a town, and it's a unique experience to explore through. There's one road that goes into the town and comes back out. It goes about halfway. I think the lake blocks it. And so I did go in there, and I'll show you all around that. I'm here in the Rachel Richardson Park, which is actually part of the town of Lazy Lake. It was named Lazy Lake because one of the guys who was living here thought that the lake looked so lazy and peaceful, so they called it Lazy Lake. It's never been very big. It can't get very big because there's only so much room to put houses. And so it's never been more than 49 people, and now is at 33. And it's got, around it has a school and a church. And I imagine there's people that live here that have no idea that the town of Lazy Lake even exists. In 1995, the citizens decided to try to put the town up for sale for $15 million. And they had some interest from a one O.J. Simpson, but he decided not to buy Lazy Lake, and the town ended up just going on. There was a vote to kind of annex itself into Wilton Manors, like originally was, one of the ideas, and apparently the south side of town voted against it because that's the people who were the mayor and the city council, and voted the north side of Lazy Lake. Interesting town, unique experience visiting Lazy Lake, Florida. the next couple of towns are basically Disney World, and we're going to take them one at a time. And there's really not much in the traditional sense of a town. The first town is Bay Lake, and it's got most of the land of Disney World. It's a pretty large area, actually, and Disney incorporated this one and then the next town as you know, for a variety of reasons, but they had some advantages if they are a city to be able to, or a town to be able to be incorporated with their land. It was incorporated in 1967, and it's mostly an administrative, you know, reasons. It's never had more than 74 people, and currently with 29. You think of it as a small town, but it's a big area with, you know, tens of thousands of people in and out all day. When you drive around, it's just, you know, it's Disney. It's Disney. It's kind of the, it's not, I don't know if it's the back roads of Disney, but it's the places where all the workers are driving. The entrance to the town is a welcome to Disney World, and that's where Bay Lake, the incorporated town, begins. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's, you know, if some people are looking for a traditional small town, it's definitely not that. But it is technically a town, and it is the town of Bay Lake. And I drove kind of all around trying to find anything that would resemble a town, and there's really nothing that you can find like that. So not very interesting to visit the town of Bay Lake. Next on the list is the second smallest town in Florida. Once again, part of Disney, is Lake Buena Vista. And just like the previous Bay Lake, it's the same kind of idea. Most everything here is just Disney World. And this one's smaller than Bay Lake. Bay Lake has, you know, the theme parks. This has a lot of hotels, and there are some attractions, but mostly it's a, you know, smaller area in comparison to Bay Lake, which is a much larger area. This was originally called Reedy Creek, the city of Reedy Creek, and it was incorporated the same day as Bay Lake. And then later a couple years later, they changed it to Lake Buena Vista, and it had, you know, very small population, obviously. And then there was the 1990 census, which sticks out, and was 1,776 people. And that's because there was an apartment complex that they counted in the census in 1990 that was annexed into the town. And then a couple years later, they de-annexed it. So you see that blip in the little radar screen of population there in 1990. It's also the address for Disney World. So it's Lake Buena Vista, Florida. There you go. So we've seen now the two towns of Disney World that really aren't towns, and they are maybe not what you're thinking of when you clicked on this video, but they technically are the towns, and it is what it is. So let's head on to the smallest town in Florida now. We have made it to number 1 on the list, Marineland, Florida, population 15. And you know, like the last couple towns that was around a theme park, this one is too, but it's very, very different. This one is in a very unpopulated area of Florida. We're about an hour north of Daytona Beach, and we're a little bit south of St. Augustine, and it's kind of an unspoiled area in a lot of ways. As you go up and down the coast here on A1A, there's a lot of little beach towns, and you get to here, and it's just pretty quiet and beautiful. And the town was started just like, you know, with Disney in those towns because of the Marineland park here. And I realized that I've been here before when I was a little kid. I always saw this picture of me in what turns out was Marineland when I was really little. And yeah, I didn't realize it literally until I got here that I had been here a long, long time ago. Because there's not much else here besides Marineland. There are some hotels and places to stay, I'm sure, as you're a tourist that wants to come and be a little bit more of a quiet area. I don't know where the people necessarily live. When you drive around, it just feels like a kind of, you know, laid back beach community to hang out and get away from the hustle and bustle, but also be near the beautiful beach. The town was incorporated in 1940, and Marineland was originally named Marine Studios. And there's a lot of underwater filming that happened here, and it was like the first time that the public could get real up and close to that kind of stuff. And so it was a pretty groundbreaking area back in the 40s, and the population has been really small of the people that live here. It's been in single digits for many of the decades, and a high of 31 and now at 15. So pretty interesting town to end our list. Really, really beautiful part of Florida. So now that you've seen the 10 smallest towns in Florida, which one was your favorite? Was it one of the earlier towns that was actually like a town? Was it one of the exclusive communities where the places were millions of dollars? Or was it something like Marineland here, which is certainly one of the more beautiful places you could live, even though only 15 people live here. So it was, you know, Florida is certainly a unique and often strange state, and visiting the 10 smallest towns was certainly unique and strange as well. Hope you liked it. I liked it a lot. We'll see you next time.